welcome back to the Great Connect podcast. I am so excited to be joined today by Andrea, Dr. Matsumura, who is a sleep doctor and has so many different specialties, associations, etc., that I can't wait to dig into this conversation as sleep has been a super important part of my journey specifically. And not to give myself away, but tomorrow is my birthday in the 40th decade. And so her specialty in women transitioning through this phase of life hits a personal chord for me too. So welcome. I'm so excited to have you
Thank you
here.
so much for having me.
Yay. Okay, so our whole goal is to help people bridge between wow, I live in this modern crazy world, and but also I don't feel good. How, how do I straddle both of those? So I am excited to dig into the sleep component. So
hmm
let's start with the very basics, which is why is sleep so important for us?
Sleep's important because that is when we kind of recharge, reset all of our body, do all of our physical healing, our memory consolidation, and remove waste products out of our brain. So
Mhm.
we really need it to live. We sleep on average around a third of our entire life.
Wow. I might do a little bit more than that. I'm a personal fan of sleep and naps in particular, but is that if I'm a person who loves nap, is that like messing up my sleep at night?
So typically, we don't recommend taking long naps. It can be a sign that maybe you're not getting enough sleep at night, or the quality of your sleep isn't good enough.
Okay.
So it depends on how long it is. It's okay to take a 20 to 30-minute nap once a day,
Yeah.
but any more than that can actually erode your nighttime sleep.
Hmm. That makes sense. Yes. That one that I fall into every once in a while where it feels like I slept all night is maybe not doing me the best benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so if that's a really great way to think about napping, are there other signs that maybe, like if I was napping too much and it was eroding my sleep at night, are there other things that are cues that maybe our sleep is not where it should be in the evenings?
Yeah, so some of the things to think about are if you're getting into bed and you're not feeling tired, then that might mean that your circadian rhythm is not aligned with what you think you need to do to get to
Mhm.
sleep.
Okay.
The other piece can be that if you're giving yourself, 7 or more hours of sleep, but you're consistently waking up feeling unrefreshed, that can also be a sign that something is going on.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is like mood swings and maybe food cravings or things like that, do those play into sleep impacting how I might act the rest of the day?
Not necessarily. So, like food, when you mean food cravings, like are you talking about that you like to eat, a particular type of food and that could affect your sleep?
I was thinking more like my food eating habits might be off because I actually am overcompensating for lack of sleep or
Oh, got it. Yeah.
yeah.
So there is data around that shows that if you're in chronic sleep deprivation or if you're not getting enough sleep, then yeah, clearly the hormones that regulate satiety and hunger, they're going to be off, and people will generally reach for foods that are fattier and heavier to help them stay awake.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah, I mean that's actually opposite of how I would have expected that the fattier would be like to help my body go to sleep. So that's really interesting to think that it's like how my body's maybe needs fuel to stay
Yeah.
awake. Yeah.
Yes, that is exactly what it's saying. It's saying, I need you to stay awake, so I'm going to give you more. I want you to reach for more um, uh, heavier food to fuel your body to stay awake.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome. All right. Well, now I'll know to clue into that part of it. So okay. So maybe we're in that mode where we're like, yeah, I go to sleep every night and I am not tired to go to sleep. And yet
Hmm.
I wake up exhausted and I'm kind of in this perpetual cycle. How do I start to break myself free of that cycle?
So, w- well, first of all, you want to make sure that there's nothing else going on, right? Do you want to make sure that there's not a medical reason why this is happening? I would definitely focus on that. But give me an example. Like what do you when you say that you want to break a cycle, is it because you feel like you're getting too much sleep, too little sleep?
Like I'm tired throughout the day.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit foggy. I don't feel energized. And yet I go to bed at night and I cannot fall asleep for the life of me. And it
Oh,
takes
okay.
so long to get to,
Okay.
and it feels
Yeah,
like off, right? I should be able to fall asleep. I've been tired all day. Why can't I go
right.
to sleep?
Right. Okay. So you have to figure out, well, why am I having trouble getting to sleep if I'm tired? So are you getting enough hours of sleep? If you're not getting enough hours of sleep, then logically you're going to feel tired throughout the day, but maybe your circadian rhythm is again not in line with when you think you need to go to sleep. Or maybe your circadian rhythm is not align with when you need to go to sleep for work or to get up for certain things. So, up to 20% of the population globally is a night owl. And what that means by definition is that your brain, so we have clock genes in our brain. They're housed in the hypothalamus. We're born with those genes. They're like eye color, can't really change them, but we can kind of fake them out or adjust them a little bit. And a night owl, by definition, is a person who wants to go to bed at 12 a.m. or later and wake up at 8 a.m. or later. We're a little bit in the United States, a little bit of an early-ish society. So many people need to wake up at 6 or they need to wake up at 7. And if they are trying to get up early, but their body likes to go to bed at 1, well,
Yeah.
then you're going to go to bed, let's say you need to get up at 6, but you're more of a 1 a.m. person and you're trying to go to bed at 10. Your brain is always going to tell you, well, why are we in bed? I mean, what's going on here? I'm not ready for it. Right. So there is a protocol that many sleep clinicians know about called circadian realignment therapy. And that actually is a whole protocol to help you pull or advance your rhythm to help you get to bed when you need to get to bed. But that is really the cornerstone. It's about your circadian rhythm.
Interesting. Okay. So I know, but let's talk real quick. Please define or give a little bit more context to circadian rhythm for those
Yeah.
that may be like, I've heard that word, but I
Yeah.
smile and nod instead of know actually what it
Yeah.
is.
So those are basically clock genes in your brain that tell your body when it's time to go to bed and when it's time to wake up. Why is that important? Because you then fall into the right stages of sleep when you're following your natural rhythm. If you are not following your natural rhythm, then you have those occurrences where somebody is getting into bed and they're lying there for like 2, 3 hours sometimes. And then they finally get to sleep, but they have to wake up early. So then they're feeling like, gosh, I feel like I have insomnia, which you don't really have insomnia. You're just not aligned with your rhythm, right? So
Okay.
that's different than when we think about chronic insomnia.
Okay. Okay. And how do we know what our circadian rhythm is?
Well, people typically do know what in
Yeah.
their heart of hearts. Like one of the questions I will ask is if the world revolved around your bedtime and wake time,
Yeah.
all the stores opened up when you were ready to wake up naturally, your job started when you were ready to wake up naturally, what do you think? When would that be? Would it be 11 p.m. to 7? Would it be 12 to 8? Would it be 1 to 9? Most people will say, "Oh yeah, I do. I like do my best work in the evening," or I love staying up watching, movies. That's my thing. I never feel really tired until, X, Y, or Z.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And you said it's like clock genes, right? These genes that we have in our body that kind of tell us what we're tuned to.
Hmm.
Does that shift throughout the course of our lives? I personally am just thinking about, different stages of my life. That clock
Hmm.
felt very different than it feels in this stage. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So generally speaking, when we're children, most children need to get a lot more hours of sleep.
Mm.
Well, uh, physiologically, yes, we need more hours of sleep. But sometimes people will talk about how they used to hide under their covers and read books or hide in their closet. That just tells me that they were night owls.
Mhm.
But typically, for those of us who are not night owls, when we all become teenagers because of all the hormonal shifts going on in the body, most teenagers will then move to becoming a night owl. And
Mm.
then somewhere in the early 20s, it kind of reverts back to societal norm in the United States, which is around 10 a.m. to 6 a.m. or 11 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Okay. Okay.
And then as we age, some people will tend to shift a little bit more towards the earlier side and go to bed a little bit early, like 9, and wake up more like at 5. Not everybody does that. Some people just
Okay.
stay night owls their whole life.
Yeah, I'm born of one. She is an extreme night owl, and it's always felt a little funny, but that's interesting to hear kind of as it shifts. I know, um, having kids has felt like it intentionally shifted it for me, whether that's really what I wanted it to be or not. So I'm curious a little bit more about like the protocol to help yourself. Like if you do need to create those shifts in your life to align to a circadian rhythm that's a little bit different, are there things that we can do ourselves to help our body kind of naturally start to make those adjustments?
So you want to expose yourself to bright light in the morning. So that is the first thing. That's actually the strongest, what we call Zeitgeber, which is a fancy word for an external cue.
Okay.
So light is very important for setting our circadian wake cycle.
Okay.
So we have light that shines into our eye. We've got nerve cells in our eye that connect directly to our wake center, fires off the circadian wake drive.
Okay.
So if you're trying to adjust your sleep, the best thing you can do is get out of bed as soon as like, let's say you would rather wake up at 8 a.m., but you have to get up at 6. The best thing you can do is set that alarm clock, as painful as it is, get out of bed and expose yourself to some natural sunlight within that first hour of waking for around 20 minutes. Now, if we're in winter and it's really dark out where you live, then using one of those lights, they're often described as the happy light.
Yeah.
But sitting in front of one, around arm's length away, about 12 inches or so away, 10,000 lux is the recommended intensity of that light for about 20 minutes. But you don't want to do it beyond an hour of waking
Mhm.
up because
Mhm.
that just pushes your bedtime late. You want to do it within that first hour of waking. So that's the first thing you can start to do. The other thing you can do is take a short course of low dose melatonin a few hours before your bedtime. So let's say again, you want to go to bed at 12 a.m., but you need to go to bed at 10 for your job. Okay. So we release melatonin from the pineal gland hours before we go to sleep. People
Mhm.
think it's a sleep aid. It is not. It's a hormone in the body that starts the body clock. So we usually recommend starting out as something as low as like zero point 0.3 milligrams. You can go up to zero point 0.5, as high as 1. And I have my patients take it around 3, even as early as 4 hours before they want to fall asleep. So if you want to fall asleep at 10 p.m., take it around 6 or 7 p.m., really
Mhm.
low dose. And that is helping to pull that clock to go to bed earlier. And you usually take it for about 8 weeks
Okay.
using the bright light, the melatonin, and then you can kind of wean off of the melatonin or just stop taking the melatonin. Some people still need it to anchor their bedtime
Yeah.
and then the light for their wake time, but typically you can just stick with the light.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask, like, how long does it take for it to adjust? And do I have to stay in those aids
Mhm.
forever? Or
Yeah.
will it ever start to feel natural for me?
It can. Everybody is different. So
Yeah.
some people, you can always, take away the light and take away the melatonin. But if you start to see your clock drifting later, then you know that you probably need one or both of them to help you.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I know I personally am I walk our dog first thing in the morning now. And so it just, it's hard to get out of the bed when it's cozy and warm in there, but it's been great. Once I get up and outside, it's like my day has started and I feel really refreshed to start my day with that morning light. So I don't mind it, even though there's a lot of cold days that I'm like, I don't really want to get out of this bed. But I love it. Also, like seeing the sunrise is, I don't know, something special. It's a
Yeah.
cool way to start the day. That's me. Awesome. Okay, so that's a great way to think about like if we're in a little bit of a rut, what would we say is kind of our regular like sleep hygiene? Like if we're
hmm
in a phase where our sleep is in a good place, like how are we
hmm
keeping ourselves in that place? What are the things that we
hmm
should be considering
hmm
to adjust?
Yeah. So sleep hygiene is really just about how you prepare yourself to get to sleep. And so I will often tell my patients, especially if they've had children, you make certain that you have a routine for your children, right? And you kind of do the same couple of things every night to help them get ready for bed. Well, it doesn't go away. We still need that as adults. So
Yes.
whatever it is that you like if you like cozy pajamas or not, if you like, if you brush your teeth, what kind of, you know, whatever it is that you clean your face with, if you clean your face or whatever it is that helps you relax to get yourself into bed. What we
Mm.
don't want is people run, 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 and then, it's time for me to go to bed. I should go to sleep. Everybody needs a little routine. Now, we don't need big, fancy, elaborate routines. If you have one and you love it, awesome. But, you just need a couple of cues to help train your body to wind down. Now, that could mean, again, like I said, for me, it's getting into my pajamas. I love my pajamas. I love brushing my teeth. I like to spray my bed with a little bit of lavender spray, and I wear an eye mask. So by the time I get into bed, I am like ready to
Yeah.
fall asleep. I do not bring my phone into the bedroom. That is the opposite of what we want going on.
I was gonna say yeah, that's a topic of
Uh-huh.
okay, so we have these bright screens in front of our
Yeah.
face all day. We can't get away from them, and yet how do we manage that so that it's not, what is it doing to us first, maybe is the question.
Yeah, so that light is sending that signal to the brain to stay awake. And it, in fact, then is firing off all those neurotransmitters in the brain, all those signals in the brain to say, hey, you should stay awake when we really want to be telling our brains to wind down and get ready for bed. So
Mm.
using our phones in our bedroom is actually reducing our ability to get to sleep and to actually get into the right sleep stages because your brain stays in a lighter stage of sleep longer when you're using your phone all of the time.
Okay. That was going to be my next question is like, I know sleep has stages, has cycles, this kind of
hmm
2 hour thing that we've always heard about to a certain extent. Um, is that real? And
hmm
what you were just talking about, like, does that mean if I'm staying on my screen until I turn it off and then I go to bed, am I missing a cycle? Am I just staying light? Like, even if I do fall asleep, what is that
Yeah.
impacting?
It's not really about missing a cycle. It's more about that your brain is staying kind of awake and in a lighter stage of sleep a little bit
Okay.
longer because you gave it this mixed signal.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So if you're feeling tired still and you're still giving yourself a good 7 hours of sleep, then maybe, that's one thing to test. Give that a couple of weeks
Yeah.
of not using your phone. We always say I say at least an hour, so that maybe people stop at 30 minutes.
Kind of like that
So,
timer on my phone that it's like,
uh-huh.
oh, now it goes to this mode. And I'm like, pause.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, so I usually tell folks, if you need it for an alarm clock, fine, set the alarm clock, put it in like the top drawer of your nightstand, or put it under
Mhm.
your bed, or,
Mhm.
whatever it takes to not have you put it in your bed.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You just don't need that in your bed for multiple different reasons, for
Yeah.
sure. Okay. So if we're staying in that lighter sleep, what happens in the deeper sleep cycle parts that we're missing?
Yeah. Well, you're not missing, like I said, it's
Okay.
not
Yeah.
really
Not
about the
missing. Yeah.
cycles. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not missing anything. It's just that you're not giving yourself, on average, you're shorting yourself about 30 minutes of sleep.
Okay.
That's what the
Okay.
data shows, that you
Okay.
are missing out. So it's the same thing like with caffeine. If you drink too much caffeine too close to bedtime, it usually shortens your total sleep time by about 30 minutes. And that could make the difference between you feeling chronically sleep deprived, or you feeling refreshed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, those
Yeah.
little things count.
Yes. Yeah, they really add up, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. But if we're staying in that lighter stage of sleep, what happens in the deeper levels of sleep?
So, what happens in our bodies when we sleep? There are four different stages of sleep,
Hmm.
and the two stages that we hear about all of the time is our deep sleep and our dream sleep.
Okay.
So, deep sleep is really our third stage of sleep, and that's when we're doing all of our physical repair.
Okay.
Um, and then dream sleep, or REM sleep, is when we are doing memory consolidation and emotional regulation. So,
Uh, okay. Okay. So we're not getting as many benefits from the entire sleep cycle, the whole night, if we're staying in that lighter state, meaning we're not getting healing benefits
well,
or.
no, you hit all those stages of sleep.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
that your brain is more awake longer, even
Okay.
though you think you went to sleep.
Oh,
You're
okay.
just staying in that lighter stage of sleep a little bit longer,
Gotcha.
shortening the total time of sleep, not your cycles, just the
Gotcha.
total time of sleep.
Okay. Okay. So I'm still getting the deeper sleep, even
Yeah,
if,
you still get your
um,
deep sleep and your REM sleep.
okay.
You just are not getting the total time. So the percentages of sleep are all based on the total time.
Okay.
And that's why
Okay.
people feel like crap when they only get 5 hours of sleep. You still got into all the stages of sleep. You just didn't get enough of all of the
Yeah.
stages of sleep.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Okay. That's helpful. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious if there's a lot of different things that exist now out in the world. Like you mentioned, a sleep mask, a variety of tools to kind of help us prepare for
Hmm.
sleep, get good sleep, sleep longer, all these things. What are your like yes, no, maybe sort of
Hmm.
tips and tools around supporting us in that
Yeah.
hygiene?
So even though I have come out with the supplement, a
Yeah.
sleep supplement, it only has three things in it, and there are three things that are very well studied. And
Okay.
that's not a sleep aid. Again, that is a supplement to support what is already happening in our body, which
Yeah.
is to get us into the right stages of sleep. So I'm prefacing with, I don't recommend a bunch of supplements to
Yeah.
help you
Yeah.
get to sleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I am not a fan of those supplements that have like 10 plus things. How do you know what's working, and why do you need that?
Yeah.
We actually have all the tools in our brain to help us get to sleep and stay asleep. We don't necessarily need something. Now, having said that, in midlife, you may need a little something, especially as we age, we lose melatonin production, and
Mhm.
maybe we do need a little bit of help in midlife, but
Okay.
that's to support what's already happening.
Mhm.
So I'm going to say no to a bunch of supplements
Yeah.
for sleep. A mask, if you like it, great. That
Yeah.
should help you. Earplugs, if you live in a noisy area, Some people need white noise or any different colors of noise to help them get to sleep. Cool, if
Yeah,
that helps you. If you need a fan, great. If you need a weighted blanket, great.
yeah,
You
right.
know, but
Yeah.
you don't need all these extra you don't need a wearable. I'm going to say no, you don't need a wearable to help you get to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No to caffeine,
Yeah.
um, no to alcohol to help you
Yeah.
get to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. What about like a warm beverage like a tea, or is there anything in that world that helps?
You know, something as simple as chamomile tea really helps to relax. I mean, there's a lot of sleepy time,
Yeah.
sleepy teas
Yeah.
out there. You know, if it helps you, great. But it could also make you get up to go to the bathroom if you drink it too close to bedtime. So it's kind of a little bit of trial and error with t drinking
Yeah.
something to help you get to sleep.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So yes, the middle of the night bathroom run.
Uh-huh.
Definitely not my favorite time to wake up, but sometimes it happens when I
Yeah,
realize at the end of the day, wow, I'm really thirsty. I haven't drank any water, and even though it's 6 o'clock and I think it'll be,
right.
it's never fine. So you mentioned that as we progress through life, that there's maybe this transition, and I know that you've been studying and working with women that are moving through the menopause journey.
Yeah.
I'd love to learn a little bit more about what happens there. How is our sleep impacted? Yeah.
Definitely. So, first of all, perimenopause can start at 35. So, a lot younger than most of us think. And there's subtle changes. So, many women, myself included, I didn't even notice it. I was already in perimenopause. I had been already in perimenopause for a few years by the time I started to kind of connect all the dots. So this is more about like the menopause movement, and learning about perimenopause is really about understanding and preparing women better to have agency around their bodies and to really take charge of their health. So for that, I am grateful. And because of my own menopause story, that's why I decided to dive deep into this and become menopause practitioner and be certified through the Menopause Society. But what happens is we have these fluctuations in our estrogen, our progesterone, our testosterone, and they're rising and falling. And when we get these deep dips in estrogen, that really affects our thermoregulatory response in our brain. And so that's why you wake up sweating, you wake up with hot flashes. It also affects our ability to get into sustained REM sleep sometimes. Not everyone, but for some people. And so then we have a shift in our cortisol, and then we might get a cortisol spike when we don't need one, and it makes us wake up in the morning. Progesterone is really that hormone that helps to prepare our body for relaxation to get to sleep. So it's got some GABA potential, which is this relaxation in the brain. It also supports the soft structures of the airway, so that are in the back of the throat. So those are two big hormones that can really affect sleep. And then testosterone really helps with deep sleep, so that stage 3 sleep. And when we have this chronic reduction of testosterone, that can also affect your deep sleep. So all of that boils down to women waking up in the middle of the night or having more trouble getting to sleep. And then when they wake up in the middle of the night, they have more trouble getting back to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot changing and shifting. So, what are the things that we should be tuning into? Is there any way, as you said, creating agency, right, for us to kind of have
Mhm.
this awareness? What can we do about it?
Yeah. So, first of all, if you start to have, there's a whole host of menopausal, perimenopausal symptoms.
Mhm.
I mean, there's over 30. Okay. There's a whole bunch because estrogen feeds just about every cell in the body.
Yeah.
So, if you notice some subtle changes in your period, if you notice changes in your mood all of a sudden in your mid to late 30s, if you notice some changes in weight, if you notice like suddenly I have palpitations, if you notice like suddenly I'm getting migraines, if you notice that you're getting, you know, joint pain, muscle pain, all of these things could be associated with perimenopause, worthwhile to get evaluated.
Yeah.
Now, once we figure all of this out, there might be an indication to treat these symptoms with hormone therapy.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and there's different hormone therapy if you're still menstruating versus if you're not menstruating.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
really important.
Okay. And the like yes, you're in perimenopause is like certain numbers around each of those levels, like your estrogen project. Like what
Nope.
is the like,
Yep.
yes, you are.
It's all about your symptoms.
Okay.
So this
Okay.
is why it's really important to talk with a clinician who is well versed in perimenopause and menopause.
Okay.
There's no testing can be uh, affirmation, some validation to help you, but it is rather erratic. We don't typically recommend testing in the perimenopausal state
Yeah.
because your hormones are fluctuating. So they're not really going, it could be different at any point of the day. So that they're not really going to be directive in helping me manage what I need to do. It's not going to make any difference in how I'm going to really treat something.
Yeah. Yeah. So as women like continue to have kids a little bit older in life, me being one of those, being able to speak to it, right? That happened for me in my mid 30s. So
Mhm.
my hormones were all over the place having had children. So how do we start to know? Like a lot of those symptoms are just symptoms that I have on a regular, like not like, how do I start to know, okay, I've had these for a certain period of time or more of them stacking up? Like, how do I start to pay attention to, yes, maybe there's a theme here rather
Mhm.
than just, especially having come out of a big hormonal change with kids.
Right. That's why, again, if you notice that there is a consistent pattern and it's staying with
Yeah.
you, that
Yeah.
is your red flag to go and get some help.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And if it's causing you strife or not
Right.
sleeping right, like what are the other things that maybe I'm noticing an impact in that way?
Right. Mood changes, hair loss, you
Mhm.
know, joint pain, muscle pain,
Yeah.
palpitations. These are all things.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting conversation to be having these days finally that it's not as much of a black box of this thing is going to happen. I have no idea what that means or how that's going to like there's a lot more conversation and that feels really supportive to be
Yeah.
able to navigate it. Yeah. And it was just your own journey that caused you to want to go deeper into that?
Yeah. I mean, so my medical career, I was a primary care. I was a hospitalist and then I was a primary care doctor for almost 13 years. So I did a lot of this already
Yeah.
as a primary care doctor. Part of my job was to also do some hormone therapy for women, certainly, helping women pick the right type of contraception if
Mhm.
that was something that they wanted, and then also the perimenopause and menopause state.
Yeah.
But when I really hit menopause, it took four different providers to have somebody finally tell me, hey, I think you might need to start on menopause hormone therapy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was dismissed by my first OB-GYN. She thought maybe I was just depressed
Oh,
and gave me an antidepressant. And after a week, I said, this is not it.
yeah.
And then the second person said, well, it sounds like you probably might be in perimenopause. Maybe you're in menopause. You not haven't quite hit a year of not having a period, which by definition is you're
Yeah.
postmenopause. And um, but didn't offer any hormone therapy, but I was having a lot of palpitations. So
Uh-huh.
then I saw a cardiologist who told me, "Oh, you're super healthy, you work out all the time, and I don't see, we don't see anything abnormal, so, let's just not pursue any advanced workup. And I was really frustrated at that point.
Yeah.
So then I saw my fourth provider who said, I think that this is something that we need to treat with estrogen and progesterone.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
it made a big difference initially.
Yeah.
And then I needed to adjust my, finesse my dosing and adjust, which took about a year. And
Wow.
I finally could feel like I was my old self again. And that
Wow.
was about a 3-year journey.
My goodness. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad you had somebody you finally found. Like that is one of the biggest challenges, right? Is
Yeah.
getting the right person that's like, okay, I see what you're saying, and I'm going to partner with you to figure it out and get you to a better place.
Yeah, it was a relief.
Yeah, makes a big difference. Absolutely. Okay. Wow, we've covered a lot of topics. I'm like, how do we go back to sleep when I really want to go deeper into all of that? Um, one of the thoughts that struck me as you were talking and this relates to all of it, is as children, we kind of are, and as a mother, you said we give them good routines, right? And we don't necessarily abide by them ourselves. As we're raising children, are there things that you think we could do differently, we could support so that it feels natural to stay in that good relationship
Yeah.
with sleep rather than kind of falling off the wagon, getting deep
Mhm.
in our hole, and then having to dig ourselves back out?
It's really hard because when your kids hit high school and they start getting into extracurricular sports and then or extracurricular activities, period, and then they have to get up to go to school so early. This is a public health emergency, and we are not doing our children any favors by having them get up early to go to school.
Yeah.
So I would say, you know, kind of being
Fuck the system.
rigid. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
get on your like
Yeah.
PTA,
Yeah.
get it, school boards, visit your city council. I mean, these are things that we all need to do and force.
Mhm.
Um, and also just bringing up habits, like the habits that you instill in your children around good study habits, routine around eating. You make sure you're feeding. So I always told my kids, we want to make sure we have food on the table to feed and nourish your body. Sleep feeds and nourishes your brain
Yeah.
to help the rest of your body.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just as important
Hmm.
as eating,
Yeah.
eating, sleeping, drinking water. These
Yeah.
are the keys to help you. But honestly, if you don't get the sleep you need, your nutrition's off. If you don't get the sleep you need, your ability to exercise and make the gains you need are off.
It really does. It is kind of it is the foundation
It
to
is.
tell your body what it needs and for your body to be able to listen to itself, right?
Yes.
That's kind of how I think about it. I loved the idea of, for ourselves, what are the cues we need to go to sleep? And I find for my kids, I at least try to voice or verbalize for them because sometimes we as parents are perhaps overdoing things and not explaining in the process, right? Like I could keep them in a great routine, but if I never taught them how to create their own routine, they're
Yeah.
not as equipped to know. So my kids are 6 and 8, so they're still pretty young. But um, oh, look, did you notice how you got quiet and tired when the lights
Yeah.
went off, right? Or
Right.
we turn the lights down, or we go up at this time because, and I think it's so important to verbalize
Hmm.
the what we're doing so that they can start to absorb that and recognize the
I
pattern.
think that's a great idea. And the other thing that just came to my mind is asking them, what's your favorite part of your bedtime routine?
Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. That's great. I'm curious. My son, as of late, tends to get a burst of energy right before we're supposed to be going to bed, and we're trying to work ourselves back out of that. But he's definitely he does a lot of sensory processing, so he's a shark. He likes to move. And so when he's listening to the story, he's moving and it's hard for him to sit still. And so we're
Mm,
working on how do we allow both so that you can listen, but also your body needs to wind down. It has
yeah.
to figure out how to turn off. It is not an easy thing to overcome when they're bursting with energy at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I love that. Um, I know you mentioned that this will probably be my last question, but I'm so curious about all the kids stuff. Like all these thoughts keep popping into my head of all these like, is that a myth or is that true that I've heard
Mhm.
over the years, which is as you become a teenager, you had mentioned that, you might get more of the night owl piece of it. I'm curious also like how much of that is real or how much of that is like how the system has created this experience for them. Um, but I had also heard that at a certain point, then their body is growing and developing so much that they actually need more sleep, that there's like a kind of a like roller coaster to the amount hours of sleep that we need, and that as a teenager, you almost need extra sleep again.
Well, there's recommendations of your total amount of sleep with every age group.
Okay.
And teenagers still need anywhere between, 8 to 10 hours of sleep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So most teenagers are just chronically sleep deprived. It's not
Yeah.
until you're 18 that you can, maybe get 8 to 9 hours of sleep, but most, that's still recommended, 8 to 9. But
Yeah.
so, in the teenage years, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, you need 8 to 10 hours of sleep still.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense, right? And we've kind of perpetuated this. Well, they sleep in, yada, 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 but they need the extra sleep. And if they've got evening
Mhm.
activities until 8 or 9 o'clock, like it's really hard to
Yeah. You
squeeze
can't
that.
you can't wind down easily. You still have to eat. Sometimes you still have to do homework. Um, and so there you've got some chronic sleep deprivation throughout the week. So that stereo and then it's really hard. They might actually make it into bed by 11, but they're still lying awake
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Because so,
They're just starting to wind down at 11 o'clock rather than,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Fascinating. Yeah, I think that was a really eye opener when I heard that, whether it was 100% true or not, was just really the recognition and thought about how much they still need at that
Mhm.
age.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, we think that they don't need it. I mean, society
Hmm.
pushes us to not get the sleep that we need, but if we actually really took a look at the data and the recommendations, they still need to be getting a fair amount of sleep.
Yeah. Well, and to your point too, around just in general, even as an adult later in life, yes, that may shift a little bit, but we're chronically underestimating perhaps the amount of sleep that we need on a regular basis.
Yes, that is a myth that you need less sleep as you age,
Yeah.
you know. That
Yeah.
is that is a myth. You still need 7 to 9 hours of sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it hasn't changed for me. I love the sleep. It's my thing. But I also think about, as you said, kind of what you're achieving during your sleep and the physical benefits and the physical healing that happens, and then the mental and the emotional things. Like as I age, don't I want to give my body that tool to heal, to adapt, all the things that are happening as my body shifts and changes too. So
100%.
makes sense to me. So, okay, we're gonna change the narrative. I'm getting on the PTA and in general, we're gonna change the narrative around sleep because it's such an easy thing to do of all the health things to do. So
Yeah.
I love that. Well, this has been such a wonderful conversation. Is there anything else you'd love to share? We will, of course, have all your contact information and details in the notes. But is there anything else happening with you right now that you'd love to share with everyone?
So I've got an insomnia toolkit that is on my website. My website is Andrea Matsumura, MD. .com.
Okay.
And I also do have a sleep supplement. It's really recommended for those of us, men or women, in midlife and beyond. I do not recommend it for children.
Okay.
Um, and I I also came out with an eye mask because
Ooh,
I love
yay.
eye masks. So I thought, well, I want to come out with one that I love, that I like. And so it's silk and it's got little grooves for your eyes in case you wear eyelashes. But I like the fact that there's a tiny little bit, it's not weighted, but I just have it tight enough so that there's a little bit of pressure around my eyes and it really helps me get to sleep. So those are the things that are going on. And the last piece is, depending on when this comes out, um, I am a co-founder of the Empower Collective, which is for 35 plus women and any man who wants to learn about midlife and menopause health.
Yeah.
Um, and we are having a conference off of the Oregon coast, March 13th, 14th, and 15th. We're going to have breakout sessions, workshops, an 80s band.
Yeah.
It's kind of a combination of education, relaxation, and goal setting for your next phase of life.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I love that. And so fun. Like, yeah, let's ring in the 80s band. That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. We will be sure to include all of that information too. I'm sure that this will come out before that so that people can jump in and
Yeah,
explore. I love that.
thanks.
Andrea, this was so wonderful. Thank you for joining me and digging into all the sleep things. I look forward to
Oh,
staying connected and hearing how the conference goes this spring.
thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. To everybody tuning in, thank you for joining the Great Connect. We'll see you next time.